Welcome to Spirit School. My name is Danielle Sarank, also known as the Squamish Medium. I am the host of your Spirit School, where I will share all the lessons and learnings that I have uncovered through my intuitive development and mediumship development journey. I am a professional psychic and medium, an intuitive teacher and mentor, and I look forward to walking alongside you on this journey. Hello everyone and welcome to Spirit School. I am going to be discussing in this episode the collective June energies for this month, which is coming up here in a couple of days by the time I post this. So the new moon in Gemini is actually June 3rd at 3:01 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, the new moon in Gemini is really bringing in the awareness around communication. So this is going to be a really big time of the month to start to kind of assess where you're at in your communication style with others in particular. So, when we look at how we communicate with our colleagues, with our neighbors, with our partners, with our children, if we were to take a step back and look at how we talk to others and how we express ourselves, is it in the most authentic way? Is it in the most truthful way? It sometimes be in a little bit defensive? Do we interrupt people? Are there times when we're sitting there listening to somebody and having conversation, but we're busy thinking about what we're going to say next instead of actually actively listening and witnessing that person that we're communicating with. So this is the month, this is the new moon that will bring all of this up. So this is a really good time to take stock of how you are communicating out in the world and how you want to be communicated with, and set some intentions around that, nipping some old habits in the butt. So I think that that's going to be coming up for the whole month of June, but mostly in particular on June 3rd at the time of the new moon. And it also is the time of self-communication. And anyone who has worked with me or listens to the podcast often knows that this comes up a lot. How we talk to ourselves. How kind are we to ourselves? How unkind are we to ourselves when we're having those ruminating thoughts within? So I won't go too far into it because I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about it a lot before, but, I work with a lot of women every week, and this comes up time and time again, and Spirit always comes through with this message of, I wish and my hope for you is that you can see yourself through the eyes of Spirit, through the eyes of the angels, through the eyes of the spirit of your children. Really look at yourself, step back without judgment, and even ask the world of Spirit, will you allow me to see myself through your eyes? And they just really want you to see how perfect you are, how full of love you are, how loved you are. And if we knew how loved we were, there was no way we would let ourselves talk to ourselves in the ways that we do, and the ways that really hold us back. And not only do they hold us back, but they keep us from our higher paths, from our most joy in life that we can possibly get. So, in the article that I wrote for Clouds and Dirt, and I will post a link to it in the show notes because I'm not going to do a separate podcast this month for it. But there's a quote that I kind of took from Jen Sincero, who wrote the book, You're a Badass, where it's like, just talk kind to yourself, unless you have a better idea. Like, honestly, what's the alternative? Continue to talk unkind and judgmental. We just don't get as far as we want to go. So that is kind of the new moon energies that are coming up. You can look at some of my past episodes because I really think in working with the moon, I work with the moon daily. I do write about the new moon, and starting later this year, I'm going to focus on writing about the full moon and doing monthly full moon energy articles. But I work with the daily moon, and I'm really tracking my emotions and my thoughts and my energy levels in association with the moon every single day. But this new moon, and the full moon are really kind of times where we can add sacredness and ritual to our moon practices. And when I was asking Spirit earlier, I'm like, okay, I didn't even think I was going to do this today, but I guess I'll record my June forecast of the energies of June. And the word that kept coming to me over and over again all morning was sacred, 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 sacred. It's about making your daily life sacred. And I know I talked about this last month in the new moon article I wrote last month, which is around, these altars that we create around our house. And it's just like an act of sacredness of what we want to bring into our lives. So an altar is very simple. It's just a little corner of your desk or a little corner of your house that you might have pictures up of your loved ones, or you might have essential oils or dried up flowers or little figurines of the deities that you love, or some oracle cards that you love. And it's a really good practice to go to your altar every day and tidy it up and move things around and bring new things in and take some things away. And that's just like an act of sacredness. And I have an altar based off my moon worshiping, or living my life in alignment with the moon. And then I have an altar next to my bed, which is more of my revolving altar, where I just kind of bring in what I'm trying to bring into my life, and I take away things that have already come to fruition. So that's just one way of making a daily sacred practice. You can really make any experience quite sacred, and I think that's going to be the key word for the month, is make it sacred. We're coming into a time of fire. The full moon in Sagittarius, which is right a few days before the summer solstice on June 21st, and the full moon is actually on the 17th, 3 a.m.-ish Pacific Standard Time, if I remember off the top of my head. And that's a real big fire sign, Sagittarius, but it's also a sign of like great humor and wit. So it's going to be a little bit more of a lighthearted full moon, I think. A lot of people get really overwhelmed around the full moons, but because we're in the sign of Gemini, which is an air sign, and we're going into the fire sign of Sagittarius in the full moon, it's going to be straddling between the two. So I think it's going to be a lighter full moon around us. And I think that real big work is going to be starting to happen around that summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere on June 21st. Now, how I was taught, I had a wonderful shamanic teacher here in Squamish for quite a few years. And I used to sit with her every time around the winter and summer solstices. And the summer solstice was really all around fire and really around releasing. And I love that it's on the same week of the full moon, because that for me is all around releasing as well. And I had a really sacred experience last year, which I won't get into because it's quite personal, but it was stuff that was coming up from years, and I mean like a decade, and just getting to sit with other women in circle around a fire on that summer solstice evening, and just like write letters to myself and write letters to the loved ones who, I wanted to forgive, and then burn it up with that fire under that super powerful energy of the summer solstice. Was incredibly sacred. And we did it next to water. So, water I always tie into our emotions. And so, it was a great space to be nurtured and be able to like release not only my thoughts, but the emotions attached to it. So if you can do something with fire and water around the summer solstice and make it sacred, I think that it's a great opportunity and a time of the month to have your prayers heard and answered, though I do believe that your prayers are heard and answered every single day. I just think that around, a large part of the world, there's going to be so many people doing some sacred work on this day. So to add to that collective energy, it's a fabulous time to wish, to release, to get in touch with your deepest desires of your life. And that's kind of what Sag energy is around too, is around like, let's get clear on our path. Let's go deeper, and how do we want to feel on this path? Not just like, what do we want to do? What transactions we want to hit? It's like, let's get deeper. And that's really going to be the work around the summer solstice on June 21st, which is also in Canada. Oh God, I can't say this name. I call it Aboriginal Day because I'm First Nations, and I work in a First Nations organization, and we call it Aboriginal Day, but I guess it's National Aboriginal Peoples Day now. So it's actually a holiday for me. So that's kind of exciting. Okay, so when it comes to the collective monthly energies, this month I'm going to be using Rebecca Campbell's Work Your Light Oracle cards, which is hands down my absolute favorite oracle deck in the world. I love this oracle deck. And when I was shuffling it, Spirit was definitely encouraging me to pull the spread as a mind, body, spirit. So what comes up with the mind card that I pulled is really around spirit letting me know for you guys that the veil is going to be very, very thin this month of June. There's going to be great access to the wisdom of our soul through those Akashic records or those Hall of Records, if you will. They're showing me, actually, it was quite funny because when they were showing me the Hall of Records, there was actually like an open house sign outside of it, which I loved. And that really signifies to me that this is actually going to be a really high energy month to be able to tap into that soul wisdom through those Hall of Records. One thing that was coming through too is like, this is actually a month to go inwards with your wisdom. So, even me as a psychic medium, like what I would recommend, and I'm not trying to put myself out of business, but like this is not a good month to actually go get psychic readings in June. This is a month to actually pull the wisdom from within and look inside of yourself rather than outside of yourself for that wisdom. Okay. So I think that this is just kind of spirit wanting to kind of point us back towards ourselves a little bit, and not give away our power and our energy, and just kind of like to start realizing how much power we actually have and how much wisdom we actually have. So that's what this card is really signifying around the mind. So this is a great time to meditate with the intention of actually meeting your soul and meeting your higher self, and gaining wisdom in that way. Okay, so yeah, slow down the mind. I'm definitely hearing right now. Slow down the mind. And that's going to be quite counterintuitive because as we go into summer, we're typically busier people. We're like, oh, what's going next? What's going next? I know even for play dates for my kid, it's like kids are booking until August right now, weekends for play dates. So we're really, really busy this time of year. So it's a real good message from spirit to slow down the mind. Take some time out of every day to just like breathe, to meditate, to ponder and reflect what's of interest to you. Okay. So just know that they're showing me that that veil is quite thin this month. I also get the sense because that veil is so thin, people will have a lot more experiences with the world of spirit. Now I'm putting this in air quotes, but like paranormal experience sort of speaking. So, things moving around your house, seeing things in the corner of your eyes. I also see physically in my mind's eye experiences of people taking photos and videos and actually catching like orbs and streaks of light and spirit. So just know that because the veil is so thin this month, that may come up for a lot of you as well. Also very vivid dreams, very, very vivid dreams with visitations of loved ones that you'll actually be able to remember, because I don't remember my dreams. Like I'll look forward to seeing if that actually comes about for me, because I would love some visitation dreams. So these are really kind of like the matters of the mind that come up this month of June with these energies. Now, when it comes to the physical self, the human self, the body, what's actually coming up for this month, and it speaks very loud and clear through the card, which is the mirror card, is around our images of ourselves, but our own internal thoughts about ourselves, our own judgments of ourselves when it comes to our physical self. So spirit is really wanting us to not avoid social situations and avoid beach days and picnics and barbecues because of our physical selves. So this comes up. It's quite interesting. Like for some reason, Spirit's bringing up this heightened awareness of these kind of harsh judgments of ourselves with our physical appearances, and they really want us to like nip it in the bud. They bring me to an awareness of a situation I had in my first marriage. So this gentleman was a little bit unstable, a little bit cruel, very verbally abusive, but he used to always tell me that I breathe too loud. And it was like 10 years later, I would be in social situations and out in public, and I'd realize like I hadn't even caught my breath. It's like I'm avoiding breathing. And I was like, man, why do I feel like I haven't taken a breath in a while? And then after a while, I was able to pinpoint it back to those things that he used to say to me. And once I identified that root cause, the energy shifted and that kind of like moved to the side. So I think there's going to be like a lot of that coming up for people. So if you're like finding yourself avoiding social situations, because we are in the month of Gemini, and Gemini is a very social butterfly sign, there are going to be a lot more opportunities, and obviously the weather's nicer, so people are definitely going to be gathering a lot more. I want you to really look, if you're avoiding a situation because of something physical that is going on, try to find the source experience from that judgment, okay? And Spirit really wants you to look in the mirror and love on yourself big time this month. Big, 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 big time when it comes to the physical self. Every perfection, every imperfection, love on yourself hard. And understand what's triggering you. This is a big month for that, okay? Triggers come up when it comes to physical self, this human self. Try to identify that source experience, okay? And move that energy around. Now, when it comes to matters of the spirit, which is my favorite topic, without a doubt, spirit is really wanting us to trust. And I think that this came up a month or two ago as well. I can't quite recall, but I remember saying something around this. Again, they're letting me know that we've been very hard on ourselves, even with our spiritual self. I feel like that people who will be drawn to listen to this episode might resonate with this, where, you know, we're kind of even beating up on ourselves on where we are in our spiritual path. It's like, I'm not progressed far enough, or I'm not as good as this person, or I should be here, not here. And Spirit's like, whoa, settle down, lighten up. This is a fun journey, and we need to bring the fun back into the spirituality, okay? And we need to trust the path that we're on. You need to trust that you are exactly where you need to be at this exact time. No sooner, no later. They also remind me that, you know, we've been building ourselves spiritually as spiritual beings for lifetimes, and we're going to continue evolving spiritually for lifetimes. So there really is no rush, and there really is no pressure. I know we are a society of pressure, so a lot of the pressures we put on ourselves are actually coming from ourselves, but Spirit's wanting you to release all pressures around your spiritual development and spiritual self. Settle into your body, take some deep breaths, and just trust the unfolding path. I mean, just the fact that you are listening to this podcast episode shows that you are on a spiritual path. You are interested in spiritual development and spiritual involvement. And so they want you to trust that and trust the next few steps, okay? I feel like there's going to be huge progress for some of you even coming up this summer. Like August really sticks out for me as well. But the real message behind this spiritual card is, if you knew you were supported, what would you do with your spiritual growth and development, right? If you knew you were supported, and you are, what would you do? And go do it, because you are supported, I promise you. And take it easy on yourself. The spiritual development journey is so fun, but I know exactly where some of you are. You know, back when I first started developing as a medium, I sat in a group with 8 amazing mediums for 4 years. And in the first year, like, some of the people I was working with had websites and they were out doing professional readings, and I just didn't feel ready. Like, I just didn't feel comfortable enough to go out there. And so I had a different set of boundaries around myself, but it was hard not to compare yourself and to compare where you think you should be. And it took me 4 years of mediumship development to get to a point where I launched a website and, you know, I hung a shingle, sort of to speak. So, you know, if you look at my journey, I definitely did it like the slow and steady path more than the quick path, right? And there's no path that's better or worse, but I think some of you will resonate more with my path, which is that, you know, I really kind of want to get to know the inner workings of this spirituality, especially when it comes to mediumship. Whereas I've seen some amazing people who have done so well, really be vulnerable and develop in the public eye and have done really well for it, but that's just not me. So this is what's coming up for this card as well, okay? Just trust that you're exactly where you need to be spiritually. So yeah, so that's kind of like the energies for the month, and I trust that it's going to resonate with some of you who are listening, hopefully all of you, but definitely some of you, and thank you for listening. I know there's a ton of options out there for podcasts, and I really appreciate you stumbling upon and listening to mine. And if you could take a quick minute and review and rate this podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, whether it's iTunes or Google Play or Podbean, I would really, really appreciate it. It helps other people stumble across it as well because of the algorithms. Yeah, and I hope you all have a wonderful June. And I will be back for more podcast episodes very soon. I have taken a couple weeks off because I've been really sick, and then my kid got sick, and yeah, it's just been life. So I will be having a few more episodes this month. I'm definitely going to be doing one on angels, and I'm definitely going to be doing one on mentorship and the mentee relationship. And I hope to actually interview a few people for that. So we'll wait to see how it all unravels, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.